We've got Craig J. Lewis, the founder and CEO of Ogentic AI. Here in 2025, AI is everything. You're building in this space now today. Can you tell us more about Ogentic AI and some of the problems you're trying to solve and like where the AI market is at right now?
Yeah, so, my career kind of spans across, starts at ADP, where the cloud was going to impact the traditional workforce. And now with Ogentic, we're looking at what we truly believe is the future of work, right? Ogentic AI is an AI enterprise productivity and automation company. So we build AI native products to solve enterprise productivity and automation. Can we help people do the most profound work of their lives with the promise of all things that AI can do? Our flagship product is AI native browser for business. We've got a few more products that are already teed up, but we're helping companies and the individuals in those companies be more productive with AI native products. But we also want to give you that 1000x leverage that AI can provide.
Now that you're building your new company in 2025, how have you approached building out like the back office, your finance stack as you're building Ogentic AI?
Yeah, for our bank, we use Avid Bank. Avid Bank has been a great partner for us. Payroll and HR, we use Rippling. And then for like our business insurance and stuff like that, we use InBroker. Obviously on the accounting side, we use our wonderful buddies over at Fondo. The thing that's great about what you guys do is, one, you make it super easy. The way you serve up the data is like, it's just right at my fingertips. And then we get an expert, when I need a little extra help. And so that's been pretty powerful for us, and we love doing it.
All right. Welcome back to the Startup Growth Podcast. We have a very special guest today. We've got Craig J. Lewis, the founder and CEO of Ogentic AI. Craig started his career in payroll and built GigWage from zero to almost $750K contractors paid on the platform, almost $1 billion in payroll volume, and raised over $25 million in venture capital. Craig is also on the governing board of directors for MassChallenge and a mentor at Techstars. He's an angel investor, and we're super excited to have him on the show today.
I appreciate you having me.
So would love to just start out with the payroll industry. You became an expert early in your career. And what inspired you to start GigWage?
Yeah, so I started at ADP, kind of the 800-pound gorilla. Everybody knows that I think ADP pays like 1 in 5 Americans. Like everybody has gotten paid by ADP at some point in time. But I sold the first cloud-based product at ADP. So in 2008, 2009, when they rolled out, it was a product called ADP Run, which was a small business software product. I kind of had a moment where I look back at it now and I say it all cool, but really it was just like this intersection of work, finance, and technology. And I knew it was something big. I knew the cloud was going to do something special for the world of work. And I didn't know if I was going to be back into entrepreneurship, but I knew I was going to spend my career thinking about how the cloud and technology would impact the enterprise. And so ADP was really how I got my start. And then I had a winding journey. I kind of went from big companies all the way down to smaller companies and worked my way all the way to like being, an entrepreneur. And so, that's kind of how I just became an expert in the space, knew any and everybody doing anything around payroll. I was like the cool kid in payroll. So they were like, Twitter, what does that have to do with payroll, Craig? You're young, black, and cool. So that's just kind of like I became an expert and obsessed with the space. And just fell in love with, money movement and business and how companies were built, how companies failed, and how technology impacted those. And so that led me to starting. Once I saw the trend of the gig economy, that's kind of how I found that path.
And as a first-time founder building GigWage, you raised over $25 million. How did you approach that, for your first round?
Yeah, like sales, because I was a sales guy in selling payroll software and enterprise software. Your first money typically comes from like angel investors, high net worth individuals, et cetera. And so there was always almost like an intimidation factor. These guys had done major transactions. My very first angel investor, he put $50,000 in, but he had sold his company for $6.5 billion to Xerox, right? They had $2 billion of revenue, 50-something thousand employees, company called Affiliated Computer Services. So you sit down with these people and there's an intimidation factor there when you got your little startup pitch deck, you know what I mean? So the thing I had to lean on was my expertise, which was sales and payroll and technology. So I knew those things really well. And so my fundraising journey, I didn't know how to fundraise per se, but I knew I was a domain expert. I knew my space and I just leaned on that. And so that's kind of how I got started, was really that domain expertise. And then over time, obviously you learn the tricks and trades of how to raise money from an angel, or a pre-seed fund, or the larger mega funds, or a, multi-stage fund, or a family office, or a corporate venture. You learn these things over time. But at first it was just about my domain expertise and my strengths.
Mm-hmm. And as you went through the program of Techstars, you raised your round and scaled the company. Now you're a mentor at Techstars. Like,
Yeah.
how do you approach, how do you advise early founders on that fundraise? I mean, I've learned a lot from you at the lobby,
Yeah.
and it sort of totally changed my mindset about fundraising. Like, how should early founders think about fundraising and navigating that, and the rejection,
Yeah.
and how to get the round done?
Yeah, that's a really key point, right? How do you get the round done? Because that is the actual objective. People think it's, the deck or the story. It could be some of those things, but it's kind of like a fingerprint. Every fundraise is different. It's unique. The investor has different interests and wants. You're at a different stage, of the company, depending on when you're raising. You've got different things in your favor, so you've got to be very flexible, because it's a volatile thing every single round. No round is like the other round. But the sales part really helps a lot, because, we're taught in sales, it takes 19 no's to get to a yes. And if you're really good, you get excited by the no, because it means you're closer to the yes. I think where most people fail is they get a no, maybe by the third no, they're defeated. And so I try to encourage people, it's a numbers game. You're literally just trying to find the investor that fits what you're doing. So, somebody might say no because you're Black. They might say no because you're female. They might say no because you don't have enough traction. It doesn't really matter why they say no. They're going to say no. Cool. Next person. And so it's a numbers game. And what you're trying to do is iterate to find that investor founder fit. Right. And so, one investor may say no, and they may give you a really good reason. And you're like, oh man. And you'll talk to the very next investor and they love it. And they'll use words like compelling, and this is interesting, and I'd like to dig in, So it's just finding the investor that makes sense for what you've got to offer, which is the same thing as sales. Yeah.
And how do you approach getting your first customers? Okay, so you raised your seed round, you're building gig wage, you're competing with ADP and these massive players. How do you think about getting customers in those early days?
Well, now this is where I start to ask you questions, because you're like the marketing master when it comes to this stuff.
Oh, no,
our first customers at Gig Wage were from social media, my personal social media. Like, we had a paying customer in the first week, which was how we knew we had something. We had a really shitty product. It was like, I mean, so Gig Wage was, notoriously bad at this time, because it would take 9 calendar days for when you hit send for the money to go from your business to your independent contractor. It would take 9 calendar days. We would lose money on every single transaction. There was no UI or UX to speak of, and somebody paid us for that. So we knew we had something, right? But it was all about social media. I was blasting stuff on LinkedIn and Facebook. There was no strategy to it. I was just like, hey, I got this thing. Somebody want to try it out? And then, I'll never forget the very first business. It was a yoga studio, and they had like 7 yoga instructors that were independent contractors, and they used Gig Wage to pay them. It was like I thought, like, you couldn't have told me anything. It was amazing. Somebody was using my technology to pay people, no matter how shitty the technology actually was.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so how do you think about that? Because I know it's hard to get off the ground for startups, right? And we're always waiting for the perfect feature to be done before we can go sell, or fixing this bug before we want to go sell. Like, how do you balance having a sort of like, I feel like as a founder, the product is never exactly where you want it yet.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you balance that with selling and closing deals and winning the business?
Yeah. You always, fundraising, selling, hiring, you're always doing stuff before you're actually ready. And you just got to get really good at that. And you got to know you're going to have a lot of egg on your face, but you've got to do it anyway. And so, like, when we're going to customers, and even now in our new company with Ogentic, like, I actually incorporated the company June 20, 2005, 25. We launched the alpha product in July of 25, and we launched the beta in August of 25. And it's an enterprise grade, extremely complex product, and it's not ready, but it was live and it was available, and people are using it. And some people get it, some people don't. And there's this need to like, oh, you're like, oh man, you give it to somebody. I give a great example. I've got this pretty impressive network now that I've had a decent career. And one of the first people I sent, not a demo, a download to the actual product was Brad Feld. So Brad Feld is, Venture Deals, founder of Techstars, Foundry, et cetera. And he just flat out told me he downloaded it and he's like, I don't get it. Like, where's the magic? This doesn't seem helpful at all. And honestly, it probably wasn't. But it was live, and the fact that I could even get feedback on it, that told me a lot. Like, he didn't see the magic in it. He didn't think it was helpful. He didn't know how to use it right away out of the gate. That feedback alone, like, that was immensely valuable. Now, it hurt. It was like, oh, Craig, you shouldn't have sent it to the OG of venture capital, like the Godfather. But that's just who I am, right? And I'm constantly pushing myself. Of course, the product isn't ready. Of course, he's seen the most cutting edge stuff in the world, and here I am sending, the first version of our product. But that feedback actually started to shape how we think about onboarding people into the product, et cetera. And so you've got to push yourself even before you're ready, because that feedback, you've got to like have this sensational appetite for feedback in the critical kind, not just like, oh, we like it, it's cool, this is novel. Like, I really want you to like rip this thing up and tell me about it so we can get to the core value that we can potentially bring, or find out that this is not going to work. And you've just got to lean into that. It's just like those no's, right? You've got to lean into the negative stuff. You can't, this is not for the faint of heart. Venture capital is the smallest asset class in private equity, but it has the most outsized returns. That's not going to be an easy journey. Like, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard. And if you don't like run towards that stuff, you'll end up running away from it.
Wow. Yeah. And so as you're building your new company, Ogentic AI in 2025, what are some things you're doing differently than when you started GigWage?
So many. So one of the biggest thing I'm doing is, so GigWage, I was a solo non-technical founder. And as I kind of looked at, things that I would do different this go around, and some of the challenges we had throughout the journey of GigWage, operationally, marketing, sales, it all kind of came back to like product, right? There was the soul and core of the product. So the first thing I did with Ogentic was a 10x technical co-founder, which is one of the reasons we've been able to move so fast. The other thing that we're doing is we're hiring, we stay north of 50% engineering and product. If we're going to be a tech company, we need to be a tech company. In GigWage, we had more business and ops people than we had tech. And so it was really heavy. Looking back at that, that was really heavy on the technical team. And so those two things, having a technical co-founder, someone who eats and breathes the product and the company from day zero, and then having a majority of product and engineers are like two of the most massive things that we're doing. Now, there's some other stuff I think about, like paperwork and incorporations and setup and share allocations and, there's a lot of things you learn along the way, voting rights and, different stuff like that.
Now that you're building your new company in 2025, you're building Ogentic AI in 2025. How have you approached building out like the back office, like the office of the founder, your finance stack as you're building Ogentic AI?
Yeah, obviously fintech is like near and dear to my heart, right? That back office is important. So when we incorporated, we actually went through a transactional attorney. Now I have done in the past, I've done Zen Business and I've done Stripe Atlas for some other stuff before, but for Ogentic, we went through an actual transactional attorney. For our bank, we use Avid Bank. Now we'll probably diversify across multiple banks too. And so we've been talking to SVB about adding them. Given everything that's happened, having multiple banks is not a bad idea, but Avid Bank has been a great partner for us. In our last company, we did our venture debt with them. We did credit, a number of things there. Cap table management. We've used Fidelity in the past, but we went with Carta this go round. And then obviously on the accounting side, we use our wonderful buddies over at Fondo. The thing that's great about what you guys do is, one, you make it super easy. The way you serve up the data is like, it's just right at my fingertips. And then we get an expert when I need a little extra help. And so that's been pretty powerful for us. And we love doing it. So if you want to throw me a discount, feel free to do so, brother.
Always, always.
Payroll stack is payroll and HR. We use Rippling. And then for like our business insurance and stuff like that, we use InBroker.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What a great stack.
Not bad. So it's important, man. I think old school entrepreneur in me, one of the lessons I learned in my very first failed business, which was non-tech, was the importance of an external team. I needed I had got sued, so I understood the importance of a good lawyer. My business partner passed away, and he kind of handled all of the finance and accounting. And so I needed to get a good CPA to kind of go in and, kind of do some of the forensic work to figure out what was going on there. We had a small business loan. And so I didn't have the relationship with the bank. He had it. So understood the importance of having a relationship with a banker. So lawyer, CPA, banker, accountants, and that stuff in the traditional sense. And so now a lot of that is the tech stack that we just went through. And so the importance of those things, I think entrepreneurs don't think about that enough. You think about who's your first hire and first customer, but that operational back office stack is critical. Like, it is very critical for reporting, board updates, just knowing where your cash actually is so you don't run out of money. What's your cash zero date? And so having a good fintech stack is critical. But the core of it is having a great technical co-founder and a great technical team.
That's awesome. And speaking of, the sort of back office admin part of building a company, what are some things that founders should think about at those stages where you're raising a preferred equity round? People talk about, the trade-offs and sort of like, founders are always worried that they're giving away too much control, but what really matters as a founder when you're doing a preferred round?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to think about it. Listen, you end up in two buckets. Either you're the girl everybody wants to take to the dance, or you're not. So I'm assuming you're talking about if you're hot. If you're hot, you kind of get to call the shots anyway. The problem is when you're not really hot and you're barely getting a round done and you're trying to like dictate terms. Like, it's just a very difficult thing. I always say, like, if the company's going well, I'm in control. If things aren't, the board will assume control. Your investors will assume control. So that's the first thing you have to understand. And you've got to be honest when you're raising a round. If you're barely getting this round done, don't spend a bunch of time on minutia. Raise the money. One of my board members always used to say, it's TTFM, take the money, right? And so you don't want to spend a bunch of time on stuff, man. I used to try to kind of haggle with different things. When the round is hot, again, you can do that. And so, but some of the things to think about are like not over indexing on valuation. If you're playing the venture game, you're going to build an outsized company, like, a couple percent here or there aren't going to really make a difference if you've got the right investors at the table. So don't spend a lot of time on that. And if you're spending a lot of time on that, it probably means you're not hot. Because if you're hot, you're going to get there. No one's going to argue with you about the valuation you want, right? And so I see founders too often want to, kind of haggle over that kind of stuff. Again, even the voting rights and like if the company's doing good, regardless of what that paperwork says, the CEOs and founders are going to be in control. Regardless of what that paperwork says, if things start going bad, the board and the investors will assume control. Paperwork is paperwork. There are edge cases where that stuff starts to matter, but for the most part, man, what you want to do is focus operationally and not spend too much time on that. Get the round done, take the money.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. So speaking of boards, so you're on the governing board of directors at MassChallenge.
Yeah.
Tell us more about MassChallenge and your work there.
Man, it's some of the best work that I've done, and I really enjoy it. So I took GigWage through MassChallenge as a portfolio company, and MassChallenge is a global non-for-profit, no equity, or equity is not a first option accelerator. So very much like a YC, which probably a lot of your audience knows and very well. but it's a non-for-profit. And so we work with corporations and philanthropic donors to fund innovation globally. We focus on finance, fintech, healthcare tech, Department of Defense, gov type stuff, climate and food, and then biotech and life sciences. And we're really trying to help entrepreneurs solve the most difficult, massive, impossible challenges globally and mobilize the resources they need around them. So that's talent, customers, investors, et cetera. So I'm on the board there. We're doing phenomenal work. We're helping a lot of entrepreneurs. We're connecting a lot of corporations with the innovations they're looking for. A lot of these legacy philanthropic donors who want to impact change on things like climate change or are concerned with, they're kind of maybe doomers on the AI side and they want to have a voice and a view into what's happening with innovation. We're able to kind of give them that perspective. And so we're just doing some phenomenal work, working with some of the best companies in the world, matching them up with some of the best entrepreneurs in the world to solve massive challenges. So it's been some very fulfilling work that I've been doing, and I'm really proud of the work that the org is doing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you've been on all sides of the table here.
Yeah.
You've been founder CEO on the board. You've been on the board of this larger organization. You've been an angel investor in several companies.
Yep.
How do you approach the board as a board member? How is that experience different than being the CEO on the board?
Yeah, so to your point, right, CEO and chair of GigWage, so I had to manage that board. We had institutional investors, we had family offices, we had corporate partners on that board, and we had independents on that board. So I got a lot of experience on how to manage a board just from GigWage. Stepping into the MassChallenge board was actually different for me. It was like, I was like, oh, I actually kind of am sitting on the other side here. And so I've learned a lot. What I used to tell my board, and what I forgot when I joined the MassChallenge board, it took me a while to remember, is what I used to want from my board at GigWage specifically was I would break it down in 3 buckets. There was bucket 1, which was like suggestions. And I was like, as a board member, if you give me suggestions, I don't care. That's just really, the second level was like recommendations as a board member. And if you make recommendations, what that means is you've put some thought into this and you're recommending something, so you stand by it. And now I do care, but I probably won't really do anything till you recommend it a few times. What I was really looking for out of the board was perspective. So I have a perspective on the world, on our customers, on hiring, on fundraising. Can you help expand or alter my perspective? That's what I really want. Suggestions, cool. We got plenty of those. Recommendations are great, but I want perspective. And so going into MassChallenge, and CEO, Kate Broomy, who is phenomenal, I try to offer perspective. And as an operational guy, and I'm not great at it, she'll probably admit it, I'm trying not to offer as much operational advice and just think about the perspective that I can maybe add to her as she continues to lead that organization. And so that's kind of how I think about a board seat. It's like, can I ask 1 or 2 key questions to alter perspective, to evolve perspective, or can I make a statement that is additive to the perspective of the CEO?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And now, now we're kind of here in 2025.
Yeah.
AI is, everything.
Yeah.
OpenAI had their dev day yesterday.
I think they crushed it.
They crushed it.
Yeah.
You're building in this space now today. Can you tell us more about Ogentic AI and some of the problems you're trying to solve?
Sure.
And like where the AI market is at right now?
Yeah. So, my career kind of starts at ADP, where the cloud was going to impact the traditional workforce. You follow that journey to GigWage, where we looked at how does technology impact the gig economy and the kind of modern workforce. And now with Ogentic, we're looking at what we truly believe is the future of work, right? And so how does AI impact the workforce of today and tomorrow moving forward? So Ogentic AI is an AI enterprise productivity and automation company. And so we build an AI native products to solve enterprise productivity and automation. Can we help people do the most profound work of their lives with the promise of all things that AI can do? Our flagship product is an AI native enterprise browser. So a lot of people are familiar with Comment. They just rolled their browser out for free. It's consumer first. Everybody's familiar with Chrome and Gemini and all those things. And so we're an AI native browser for business. And so we think about, one of the ways I like to think about it is like, you may use Comment to go book a trip, family vacation. Our browser's called Zing. You'll use that for corporate retreats or business travel when you're thinking about things like expense management and all of those types of things. Same functionality, different use case that we're rooted in, right? And so as our flagship product, it's an enterprise browser. We've got a few more products that are already teed up, but we're helping companies and the individuals in those companies be more productive with AI native products. We think about safety, we think about security and privacy, which are important to the enterprise, but we also want to give you that 1000x leverage that AI can provide. So you don't have employees that are using, your tools on the work computer and then their AI tools over here on their personal computer, and putting all your data and stuff at risk. And so we're building tools around that, man, and it's just super exciting. It's fast paced. It does look like the big LLMs are coming out with products every single day that compete with their customers. But that makes it fun, man. That's what, if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Mm-hmm. I hear that. So what does the future of work look like? We're starting to see this now, and there's people worried about jobs being replaced.
Yeah.
Where do you sit on replacement versus like augmenting the workforce?
I think two things can be true. Absolutely, jobs will get replaced. New jobs will be created, and jobs that continue to exist, the expectation for you to produce will be higher. Because you can be augmented and enhanced. And so we're what we call a pro human in the loop shop. So we believe AI should not completely replace employees. Humans should be involved, and you should amplify and enhance those humans. Now, but again, if you're, on the payroll and you're not doing your job and there's an agent that can do it, you probably will be replaced. And so I think the people that like run towards this stuff and don't avoid it will be successful. And that's the type of technology company we're building for those types of organizations. We really like people that are high velocity, high productivity people. And then can we make you even more productive versus the people that aren't that productive? Can we make them more productive? That's not that interesting. But if you're high velocity, if you're a founder, you're a freelancer, you're a knowledge worker, you're getting shit done, can we help you get more shit done, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of how we see the world. And I think those people will be successful in the future, regardless of what technology comes out.
And so fundraising today in this market where the AI is moving so fast, what matters today? You had the CEO of General Catalyst saying triple, double isn't enough anymore. How should founders think about the fundraising environment today?
Yeah, listen, it's easier to build, but the bar is higher when it comes to raising. The bar is higher when it comes to getting customers. And I think you've got to find your niche. Now that statement, triple, double isn't enough anymore. Again, this is for the pretty girls at the dance. Like that's not for every single entrepreneur building every single company. General Catalyst, Sequoia, Andreessen, they know they're in, like they're a winner. They're shopping for the winners, the category kings, etc. There will be lots of companies that are built and that are very successful that didn't get to 100 million in their first 6 months of their, and so that stuff is true for a certain group of people. But I think for most people, you have to start thinking about how do you find value. And so I think you've got to be iterating quickly. You've got to be really intimate with your customers. You've got to find a segment of customer that is differentiated, your kind of blue ocean for you to swim in. And you've got to go deep and really find those secrets. Because listen, mainstream America, right? I spent a lot of time out here in the Bay, New York, Boston, but the rest of America and the world, quite frankly, they're not on the cutting edge of AI right now. Like that's just not what's happening, right? That, you talk to some, private credit firm in Alabama somewhere, right? Huntsville, or, there's opportunity to go in and bring AI to middle America, middle market companies, small businesses, legacy businesses, and build really successful, robust AI native companies serving, particular niches. And so, listen, I think Jim Cramer on CNBC always talks about there's a bull market somewhere. Your job is to find it. right? And so there's lots of opportunities. And then you've got to know, again, that investor founder fit. If the investor is saying triple, double ain't gonna win, and you can't grow faster than that, that's not your investor. But there is someone out there that maybe wants to do something a little bit more slow and steady with, not that triple, double is even slow and steady. Like, that's phenomenal growth, right? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, that's what's wild. Well, Craig, tell us where we can find you online.
Yeah, man, I'm pretty easy to find. I'm Craig J. Lewis everywhere. I like LinkedIn is my platform of choice, but I get busy on, you know what? I think on X I might be Craig Jamal Lewis. I think actually some guy's been trying to sell me Craig J. Lewis for a couple of years now. He can have it. But yeah, Craig J. Lewis everywhere. Also OgenticAI.com. But yeah, man, I'm out here. Check out the work we're doing with MassChallenge. Super excited about the space we're in AI. I'm actively angel investing. I like fintechs, do a little bit of CPG, love AI, obviously enterprise B2B AI stuff. So I'm out here, man.
Awesome, Craig. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, bro.
I appreciate you having me, my guy. Indeed.
Fondo.com, the all-in-one accounting platform for startups. Get your bookkeeping done, your taxes filed, and cash back from the IRS. The average startup gets $21,000 back every year. Fondo.com.